And just like that, I was summoned back home. Hello everyone, my name's Rendi, and I love going for some of the lowest level possible combat level achievements in the entire game. And the Fight Caves is where I started this journey unofficially many years ago. So today, we will return, and I will be attempting the most insane achievement to be done probably in my entire RuneScape career, from start to finish in one singular video. So now, with the goal for the lowest combat level in mind, I welcome you all to my new series. Welcome back to episode number 3 of Lower the Better. Similar to how I went about it with Underground Pass and my potato-only hardcore Iron Man series, I wanted to release a video early on in this series in order to start the series off with a bang. Also, I know some of you enjoyed the unique parts of the potato-only Iron Man series because you could see the grind, as well as you would have suspense in case I failed and many hours were lost. Fortunately for you guys today though, this episode will feature both of those aspects in a very unique way. The reason being, I will be grinding for several hours to even prepare the account to get into Fight Caves, as well as you will see me actually being able to fail the entire account many hours into the Fight Caves, similar to how I could fail the hardcore Iron Man at any point during that series. And guess what? One of our biggest enemies today will once again be lag. That is because for one singular attempt at this Fire Cave, it will take me around 110 hours in the actual Fight Cave itself, as well as another 10 hours to prep each account in order to attempt the cave. So, that hourly total I just told you as well is for one singular account, and doesn't even include the possibility of failing. This also does not include the time I spent editing, which all totals to around 200 hours I spent creating this video. So if you make it to the end of the video and you enjoy it as well as the effort I put into each episode, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. As well, if I somehow in hell hit 1 million subscribers someday, I will literally change my first name to Rendi. And you will find out that I don't make false promises. Chest bra. Now, to be honest, this achievement is almost 99% planning, so I will include some of the planning within the waves in the next chapter later in this video. But in the first chapter of this video, I will actually be explaining the planning that went behind each of the builds, as well as the actual grind itself, and lastly, the planning that went into starting the actual Fight Caves. So if you guys didn't know, I've actually gotten the lowest level Fight Cave record 5 consecutive times in a row, and the last time I did this was back in January of 2016, so a little over 3 years ago. I'm telling you this because doing the Fight Cave at such low levels over so many years is what gave me the experience to tell me what was possible and what was not. And although it's been over a year since I've actually stepped back inside the Fight Caves, I've been theorizing this method of doing this low combat cape for a long time. Now this is pretty funny. I actually caused the Ring of Recoil buff to the Ring of Suffering. And this was because one of my Twitch chatters went into Reddit and posted a meme of me saying that I basically wanted an unlimited amount of recoils to be added to the game. That is because the ongoing joke in my Twitch chat was that I could do a Ring of Recoil cape at a very low level combat as long as I didn't have to bank for them. Unfortunately though, the way Jagex decided to add this to the game was to actually put on the Ring of Suffering, which had a 75 HP requirement. And as we all know, naturally getting 75 HP puts you at 19 combat. As well, we all know now that doing a purely recoil cape is impossible, as the 180s, the meleeers, heal themselves once they go under half HP, and they heal themselves quite quickly, meaning you can't recoil them down in most of the waves. So in late 2016, I kind of theorized a way to beat my level 25 combat by using poison daggers on corners of rocks and avoiding damage, as well as using some hidden mechanics in some unique instances that wasn't known by many other people. Unfortunately though, I went about this in a different way than I am today, and in early 2018, I went ahead and made several accounts with 30 attack in order to speed up the process a bit and make it a little bit more feasible, but with one prayer so the combat would still be lowered. I theorized that I could use the vents in the actual fight caves and get 76 cooking, in order to then never burn a fried onion and pull them out of sacks with my knife and bowl, and I did all this to make combo tickets so I could lure the mage in range to the western rock and dagger them. I found out early on in the beginning of these caves, in order to actually do this, I needed a lot more food than even the maximum output I was getting from sacks of onions and turning them into fried onions with no burn rate. This is because the combo tiki, you actually need to eat a food that will double your HP between every hit, and make sure you eat them right at the exact time. Therefore, by actually needing so many of double HP 3-tiered food, I didn't even have enough inventory space for the entire fight cave run, and would run out very quickly. This basically told me that the 1 per route in order to get a low level combat cape such as this was completely improbable. So on a singular account a few months later, I went to try plan B. This plan was actually to decrease my attack from 30 to around 20, as well as getting 43 prayer to mitigate most of the lures I would have to do. And earlier when I said I've been trying to formulate a dagger poison method for the fight caves for a very long time, I was not kidding. Actually, that number might just be a little bit skewed. To help me determine what was actually feasible within the fight caves, I developed a true hit chance calculator. Now this one I developed is very basic, but it is different from the initial hit chance calculation the game actually uses. This is because it takes into account your max hit. So the actual hit chance formula just tells you when you're going to roll a hit. And you can actually roll a 0 as a hit between that and your max hit, which is 1 in my case. So this tells me if I start an account with 20 attack and only 1 strength, I'm only going to be maxing a 1, and therefore my true hit chance is half of what you would think it is, because I can either hit a 0 or a 1, making it 50-50. So unlike misrepresented calculations you have probably seen before, you can see the true hit chance of hitting a 1 on each of these NPCs in the fight caves with only 1 attack. And this chance is relatively low. So this is important because there are some NPCs in the fight caves which you will dagger, which you will actually have to poison multiple times. Based on my calculations, I would need at least 20 attack in order to re-poison these NPCs before they regened literally to full HP. If you had any less attack levels, on average this would make the cape impossible and you would actually get more XP just trying to re-poison it as it regened over and over again every single minute. So therefore now I knew that 20 attack was an essential input for the build. But there was still a major problem to tackle. Although 20 attack has a little bit of accuracy, this cave will still be over 100 hours, meaning I'm bound to lag. In my first attempts at doing this theoretical cape in 2018, resulted in me lagging and dying at only wave 13. In more recent times though, I found many helpful tips in mitigating lag throughout the servers, and I will cover that in the next chapter of this video. Now that everything was planned out for the actual Fire Cape start, and the build of the account, I would have to go and create each of these accounts perfectly. I had a little help here and had a friend choose the default outfits as well as the usernames.
Yalas. Shisha Smoke. Calidius. LOL Kid Sit.
And of course, the mastermind behind their design was yours truly.
Chest bra. Chest bra
Is loyal, but he isn't very creative. So now all of these accounts look like chest bra alts and have extremely shitty names, but that won't stop us from getting the cave. So I needed to save as much XP as possible once inside the fight cave. That meant I would have to take a somewhat strategic route in order to hit the EXP goals for the account, as well as have some quests completed in case I actually got the Fire Cape done. The main strategy I used to build these accounts was just to make sure I didn't go over the EXP for 20 attack, 10 range, and 9 magic. As well, I needed to keep my HP EXP as low as possible and remain at 10 HP before entering the cave. I'll explain why I need the range and mage XP later in the next chapter while in the actual caves. But I went ahead and got the 10 range through most diary tasks and other NPCs within quests. Now I only actually completed 2 diaries, and the first being that of the Easy Artie. I completed this diary to get the Artie Cloak 1, as it was honestly the best all the way around, as it had magic bonus, prayer bonus, and stab bonus. Next, I completed the Easy Falador Diary in order to get the Falador Shield 1 for the extra defense bonus, as well as the 1 prayer recharge per day of 10 prayer points. And although 10 prayer points doesn't sound like a lot, for a 110 hour cave, 10 prayer points can make the difference. After this, I quickly went ahead and finished 10 range at cows, and then started training my attack to 20. To start the grind for the attack level, I went ahead and went to Varrock Dummies, where you can actually train under 8 attack without HP XP. But here I would actually stop before I even hit 8 attack, as I needed to calculate my XP with the quest rewards in order to hit 20 attack exactly.
And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Now if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits, and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Now in order to get my attack from 20 from this XP exactly and no XP over, I went ahead and did Mountain Daughter and Death Plateau. After this I had to get 9 magic without HP XP by doing Imp Catcher, then buying the Cursed Goblin Staff and splashing. From here all I had to get was 43 prayer, and I did this by doing Priest in Peril, Restless Ghost, and then finishing off the EXP at a World 330 house. So now I had all necessary stats and items needed to complete the Fire Cave. Or at least at this point, that's what I believe to be true. Now this end goal combat calculation for the fight caves relied a lot on RNG. This is because for most kills I will be using a poisoned melee weapon which has a 1 in 4 chance of poisoning the NPC. Meaning even if I get a tiny bit of bad luck, I could go over the 18 combat easily. So in order to combat the possibility of bad RNG, I formulated a foolproof way with my trusted steed, Chestbra, and his powers in order to summon the most powerful weapon, even known to some as having biblical origin.
Unstoppable.
So even after all that planning just now, I still need to plan my entry into the 100-hour cave. And the first thing I need to do is determine what spawn to start with. Now if you guys didn't know, this was secret for a long time, but Fight Caves actually has 15 possible spawn patterns, and this is now common knowledge and even displayed on the RuneScape wiki. Within each of these 15 patterns, every NPC spawn is dictated by a rotation sequence shown here. And this sequence naturally puts the highest level NPC where the previous 1 tier lower level NPC spawned on the prior wave. So, because of the nature of this rotation sequence, you can actually determine which pattern you got out of the 15, typically by just the first 2 NPC spawns in the first 2 waves. But what most people still don't know today is that these 15 possible patterns run on a global timer, meaning if you enter the fight caves on 2 separate accounts at the exact same time, you will get the same exact spawn. Now when I found this out a few years ago, I couldn't quite figure out the time between each individual pattern, but this was because I later found out that one of these patterns repeats itself. And that made me realize there's actually 16 possible patterns, not 15, even though the 16th is the same as the 15th. And each happen on a global timer, 1 minute apart. Therefore I'm now able to use my high quality crafted photo here in order to tell me exactly on what time on my computer clock I can go in the caves for the desired spawn. But what is this desired spawn? Well, basically I found a way to manipulate the rotation in order to find the perfect spawn for this cape. And this is rotation number 2 according to the wiki, where the first spawn is center and the second spawn is southeast and south. Now this is my best pattern I chose for doing my dagger method of the cape, because the majority of the mage and range waves where they tend to spawn in the center of the fight caves, the center being the hardest spawn to lure with the dagger spot, happen in the waves with safer NPCs surrounding them. So now knowing all of this, I went into the entry time proposed for pattern number 2. One of the first things I actually did inside of the fight cave was mark tiles from Runelight in the corners where melee NPCs and mage and range NPCs wouldn't be able to reach me. And I already almost just died on wave 7 doing just that. Along with this, I used the tile indicator tool to show me where I'm actually stepping on the map. These two tools were necessary because I needed to step in very precise tiles for over 100 hours straight. And one misclick out of tens of thousands I would be performing in this cave, especially with mage and range NPCs in the flinch spot, would be a 100% guarantee of death. So some of you at this point might be asking, what is flinching and what is a flinch spot? Well, because melee attacks actually hit with no delay and no animation, you can actually trick an NPC into thinking it's still out of combat by hitting it on the first tick of your melee attack and then stepping back out to a safe spot. So therefore I wait for each NPC's HP bar over their head to disappear before I go out and attack them once again. Now melee NPCs have a lot more flinch spots than mage and range NPCs because you can safe spot them easier. There is actually 10 total melee flinch spots. Now for the range and mage on the other hand, there's only 2 actual spots you can flinch these NPCs. And this all occurs on the western rock because there's no gaps in this rock and you can trap them on the wall diagonally. You can see this very visibly here in my high quality sketch. So the yellow X's are the mage and range flinch spots, as well as being melee flinch spots. The red X's are all the possible melee flinch spots, and lastly the green arrows are the diagonal lures you have to take the NPCs to some of these specific spots. So what did all of this basically mean? Well, it meant I would have to try my best to save the mage or range till the last part of the wave, and kill everything off before them. This was because I would drag them to the western rock, and then lure them around, in order to dagger flinch them. Now by using this strategy, this is where my necessity for 10 range comes into play. Some wave spawns have bats or blobs behind other NPCs which can get unlured if I were to kill the NPC in front of them. This would cause them to hit me at the same time that a range or mage NPC would be on me already. And with a 10 HP start, you definitely don't want that. As well, I'm going to be able to take my range up to 18 without being range based because my attack level will be so high by the end of the fight cave. And my calculated range level from 10 ended up being 14, meaning I had plenty of XP to spare before I even hit the range cap. But I would also limit my range use to only where it was necessary because it would give me more HP XP than killing things with melee. This is because the chance to poison with range is 1 in 8, while melee is 1 in 4. Also range tends to hit 2 or 3 even with bronze bolts, versus a mithril dagger which hits 1 with 1 strength. Now my 9 magic came into play because there were some waves I had to rush and kill bats with Earth Strike in order to kill them fast before every other NPC came at me. The main focus of this was that they didn't hit me and lower my prayer points as well as my extremely low hit points. I would do this, and if I didn't see the EXP drops I wanted to get the hits I wanted, I would log out early on some waves and repeat them. Once again, I only calculated 9 magic to get me up to 14 in the small instances which I would use it. So therefore, unless I just got extremely unlucky splashes and hits, I wouldn't hit the cap of 18 magic. Now between waves 38 and 45, as well as between waves 53 and 60, there were a lot of both range and mage NPCs, which I had to off-tick in some cases. Now not all of these waves, such as this one here, did you actually have to off-tick them, but there was a few. In fact, the first wave I had to off-tick on the very first account didn't work out as I planned. For one singular tick here, I stepped 1 tile too far southwest, and unknowingly changed the tick pattern between the range and mage NPC. And from there, I basically panicked when I saw I was getting hit.
Shisha smoke.
So even though I realized that in the middle of this run, by off-ticking this wave, the range would change his attack by 1 tick, it would still be off-tick, but by a different timing, so I would just focus mage to range instead of range to mage when I was flicking each prayer. In the past, on low-level long-term capes, I've always decided to use 2-tick prayer flicking over the traditional 1-tick prayer flicks. This is because the 2-tick flicking actually works by putting your prayer on before the animation, and if you server lag, the NPC won't attack you before you have the chance to actually put on your prayer. Now traditionally speaking, 2-tick prayer flicking didn't actually drain your prayer like it does today. This was added later in a hidden game update. So even though I'm using a 2-tick interval, my prayer will slowly drain, meaning I needed a lot of prayer bonus to do this cave. As well, being dozens of hours into this cave, I thought it was safer in some instances just to leave prayer completely up, and that's exactly why I brought such a large prayer bonus. In my experience of doing these very long caves, especially this one, it is best to go the safest route no matter how many prayer points or food it actually costs you. So by maxing out my inventory to have many super restores as well as a very high prayer bonus, I could go pretty relaxed about what I did with prayer. And on this second attempt now after y'all has died, I added more restores to my inventory as well as a rock cake. Now I decided to add this rock cake because there are some unique instances in the caves where range and mage NPCs will attack you while you're flinching something in front of you on the corner of a rock. On my previous attempts, I would actually mitigate this damage by putting my prayer up 1 tick before I went to flinch the melee NPC. This was a 2-tick prayer flick and it would lower my prayer over a certain period of time. So instead now, by using this rock cake, I would be able to go under my full HP so I could just tick eat the NPC in the back while flinching the one in the front. And this was relatively easy because I had several ticks to actually eat the food before the NPC in the back hit me. Now besides using range to kill some NPCs behind other NPCs in very unique instances, I also used range to kill some of the 90s in the higher waves. This was because I was already over 50 hours into the cave and it was much less risky to just go ahead and kill some of these ranges rather than off-tick them with the mage, and in most of these waves I was actually required to kill the range with range itself because I had other NPCs in certain areas. Being over 50 hours into this cave, this was just a much safer method and I had plenty of range EXP to spare, as well as I would wait once the range was poisoned and 1-tick flick it since my HP would now be over the max out of the range this deep into the cave. Now this might sound a little bit dumb, but this was actually the most important aspect and really what got me through this entire cave. This is because actually mitigating lag was that serious and I would be in the cave for over 100 hours, meaning if I lagged at most specific points and times, the whole cave would be over. Now the first thing I would actually do to mitigate lag was to switch to a UK server. And I'm actually from the USA, meaning I did an 18 combat fire cape at 200 ping. Now you might be thinking that's insane, but it actually helped me out more than it hurt me, and in 3 whole different ways. The first instance being that my ping was so high on some of these flinch spots that if I actually server lagged the exact tick I clicked the NPC, I wouldn't even register the click before I clicked back to the right tile. Now the second reason being that the servers actually have micro lags if your ping is quite low. This is because the ping will drop even lower than what you're used to, and the prayer will activate too quickly. Therefore, to successfully 1-tick flick in some of these instances, it was much safer to be on a high ping world. And the very last reason for UK worlds in my experience was just that basically they're more stable than US worlds overall and have less server lag. Do you guys remember earlier how I described to flinch NPCs by waiting for their HP bar to disappear? Well actually this doesn't always work, and this is because if you server lag between the time you attack the NPC and step back, the HP bar can actually go away because it is client-sided and the NPC will still believe it's in combat, meaning it can just basically one-hit you. So the only way for me to mitigate the risk of lag in these scenarios was basically to just go ahead and wait extra time between each attack. And to be honest, this probably tacked on another 40 hours to the cave just to be safe with lag. But 99.99% chance I would have just died if I waited for the HP bar to disappear every time, as server lags do happen quite frequently. So if you guys didn't know, the accuracy I have to hit on each of these NPCs cuts in half every NPC tier I go up. This is because each of these higher tier NPCs have double the stats of the other. So at this point, along with this low accuracy, you also know I have a 1 in 4 chance to poison them with my mithril dagger. So therefore you can actually calculate the average chance I have at poisoning these NPCs by multiplying 25% by the earlier accuracy calculation. And as you can see, these chances of poisoning each NPC are very low. Now the kempq, sometimes you have to poison twice, and if you're really unlucky, sometimes you have to poison it 3 times if it naturally regens its HP back over that of the second poison. So in some of these waves I actually got extremely unlucky, and at one point I even hit a kempq 30 times before the poison activated. Come to find out, the reason for this was that Chestbra actually stole the earlier seen holy dagger before I even entered the cave, and instead I was just left with this piece of garbage. As you can see by these layouts here, these are probably 2 of the hardest waves I had to accomplish. Now 56 I'm going to leave a mystery for you guys, but 58 was a little bit different. So now let's go ahead and see a full-fledged example on how I went about some of these higher waves. Now wave 62 is actually relatively easy, and I just went ahead and stood in front of the mage because I had extra super restores and tried to poison it this way. And although you guys can't really see it here, I actually had my monitor turn off on me right after I stepped back off the mage here, meaning if the monitor turned off 1 tick earlier, the mage could have just meleeed me and easily one-hit me. But luck was on our side, besides the monitor turning off, and we were ready to go on to the final wave, after I did one last thing. So to start off Jad, I'm going to go ahead and take him over to the western rock and lure him around in order to start melee flinching him in the traditional range and mage safe spots. And for the next step, I'm going to go ahead and have chest bra paffed into the caves here and just declaw out Jad for me. Chest bra. Just kidding. Instead, we're going to be doing the slow and tedious but safe method of flinching this NPC and hoping I can poison it. Yep, that's right. I not only somehow in hell hit this thing on the second hit, but I also poisoned it. So now I would wait for Jad's health to go down and attempt to repoison it before summoning the healers. So I took Jad back to Italy because I had a way to tag all the healers without taking any damage as well as kill them on this certain rock. The healers will actually spawn when Jad is under 160 HP, not half, and they won't spawn unless you actually physically hit Jad, meaning poison won't spawn the healers. If Jad actually heals back to full HP at any time, his healers will be resummoned, meaning it was extremely important to get that second poison off when I did before he regened HP, so I would have more time to do all this and lower his HP and repoison him once again once the healers are dead. So these healers have range defense as well as normal defense, so there's no way in hell I'm actually going to hit them with that. So I needed to use my dagger and flinch these NPCs while prayer flicking Jad at the same exact time. So now I would just lure Jad back to the flinch spot and get as many dagger poisons as possible in order to kill him or at least make sure his HP didn't regen to full. So as you can see now, I'm getting extremely good luck on Jad, and I didn't even get this luck on the Ketsex. And if I somehow got even more luck, all I would have to do is poison Jad one more time. And that's when I realized Chestbra didn't paffed in earlier to declaw Jad, he paffed it in to give me back the one item I would really need. So just like that, with the correct strategies and approach, we did what some people deem to be impossible in under 2 weeks. But today, our journey doesn't end here. I went into my super secret stealth mode in order to see what it would be like to be E-famous. And oh boy was it fun. Now I changed my name twice, and the previous name for this name I'm going to be pulling up would actually be an anagram for my name backwards. This is because I wanted to see if people would ever catch on to the conspiracy I was brewing by adding my name to their friends list and looking at the previous name. But the second name I chose for this account would have to be something so great so it could achieve much attraction. So of course, I chose none other than
kempq.
a very classy name, I must say indeed. And pretty much from here, things just got really out of control.
You got mail.
Get the fuck off of my tail, bitch. Nebbies are rolling with L switch. You counting no cookies, I'm counting the bitch. Replying and thinking so jealous. Hey, they call me the Dottie, I'm rolling with commies. No way you can stop me. I'm here for the party. You want it like Laddie, you shit like body. I'm popping like rockets. We know these you bust.
Up in my nose, I want some diamonds all up in the rose. VVS silence, still known for the violence. Yo, bitch, I stay silent as I come approach. Talking with venom, I'm gonna redefine. Corners of enemy, finna re-reply. I got a weapon, you finna feel that bite. Come in a second, I shoot the breeze on bite.
So grind it like a skater. I serve you like a waiter. Bitch, I'm about my paper. Got no time, I see you later.
So it turned out that only one person cared enough to actually add my name, look at the previous username, and figure out the anagram to realize I was the true owner of the account. And that turned out to be kempq himself, who unfollowed me on Twitter, refollowed me again to notify me he unfollowed me, then unfollowed me once again for good. Don't worry, Kemp. It was just a joke, and I forgive you. But there was still one open-ended question to put in the aftermath portion of this video. Do you guys remember these two fellas?
Karyate. LOL kid sit.
Well, I never even had to use them, so they're going back where they belong. Lastly, I would like to thank a lot of people that made this video possible. The first, of course, being Chessbra for helping with even some of the strategies, thumbnails, cinematics, and so much more in this video. Next, I want to thank my friend Sam, or otherwise known as Karyate on SoundCloud, as he actually put together some of the OSRS beats you heard in this video specifically for this video, and I really appreciate that. I'll go ahead and link his SoundCloud down below. Also, if you guys really enjoy what I'm doing here and you want to help support me even, I have a Chessbra emote now on my Twitch channel which can be used all across Twitch, and if you have Amazon Prime, you can obviously get this for free. And lastly, I want to thank some of these big name content creators that have been promoting and sharing my videos lately. It means the world to me, and it really boosted up my channel from almost nothing. I'll also go ahead and link some of their channels down below, so if you guys want to check them out, that'd be awesome. And once again, if you guys enjoyed the video, a subscription to my channel would be greatly appreciated, and I'll go ahead and link my Twitter as well as Twitch down in the description below as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time on Lower the Better.